Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and of course that makes this episode 11 of Circles and Squares. And Kate, I have to tell you something. I'm so happy to be here to talk about video games right now because my life has been taken over by the NHL playoffs. As everyone knows, I'm a huge Dallas Stars fan. It's probably the only thing I might like more than games, and the fact that they're in the playoffs just gives me a heart attack every time they have a game because it's so stressful. And this is like a great way to get that off my mind, you know?
Well, I'm super excited for you, and go team.
You know, they play tonight. If they win, they're on to the second round. So that makes me feel, a little bit of relief. But if they lose, I'm going to be like stressed out the whole time. Until...
All right. Well, by the time you guys are listening to this, we will have known. So if you never hear from us again, things went poorly.
If I'm not on the next episode, I have to take some time away to go relax on a beach somewhere or something.
Well, hey, speaking of that, I have some time off right now, and I am super excited to be playing tons and tons of games.
Yeah, well, you know what? I got a week off coming up too, so we got the same thing. Hey, just before we get into the show, though, we just want to thank everyone who entered the contest for last time. We've since given away all those codes for Rocket Arena, like we were talking about, and to everyone who won, like, congratulations. We hope you're enjoying the game, and I've played a couple more times since then, actually, too. It's been quite fun, actually.
Yeah, and you know what? If you guys ever, with your new codes, if you want to reach out and play some games with us, you can add us on our PlayStation accounts. Mine is Uteapia. It's Uteapia. So you can send a friend request and hop in some matches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess mine's Jakk-Pot. JAKK-POT. I think it is. It's a little different. You know, it's one of those names that's like taken sometimes, so I had to put a weird hyphen and whatever.
Things.
We'll put our names in the show notes. Okay, that'll be fine. Yours is a play on like Utopia with T, right?
Yeah, and I don't know, and it just kind of stuck. I like the sound of it, and it's never taken, which is fantastic.
See, that's the lucky part. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, let's get into the show. Today, we're going to be talking about, of course, the games we've been playing to start the show. The second segment we'll be returning to the news for this week, and then finally, there's a little game called PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which came out. It was basically, the Smash Bros. Ripoff, which wasn't half as good. And we thought that maybe it'd be fun to speculate if they ever made a sequel, who the roster would be for that game. So we're going to officially cast right here the definitive list of characters for PlayStation Battle Royale, All-Stars Battle Royale 2 at the end of the show. So stick around for that. But let's get into it. Kate, what you been playing?
Well, like we said last week, I've dabbled in some Fall Guys as my fun PS Plus game for the month.
Yeah, I've been playing still too as well, so I'm curious to see what you think.
Absolutely. Well, there was once a day where I thought Tetris 99 couldn't be toppled as the best battle royale ever made. But today is the day I'm humbled, and I will tell you that I think Fall Guys really does take the cake on this one. It's just super silly and fun, and you just can't help but be charmed by playing these ridiculous games. I don't think it is perfect, and there's definitely some quality of life things I'd like to add.
Yeah.
I really think that this game would benefit from having some kind of couch co-op implementation, even if that just meant that it was split screen and you guys could both go into the same match together, and you would obviously be pitted against each other, but if you had a team game, then you'd be on the same team, and I think it would just really enhance the experience.
Totally. That's definitely something I thought as well.
I've had tons of fun playing it, and I have tried it on my own, just a couple matches, but it really takes a lot of it away when I'm playing by myself, because the fun of it is something dumb happens, your friend runs into an obstacle and you laugh at them, and it's intended to, I think, not be taken too seriously and just be super goofy and fun.
Yeah, I agree. And when you play by yourself, you lose that goofiness and you become more focused in on okay, I really got to excel at this almost. I think
it becomes almost a little more competitive, and I think especially because some of the games have such a high random element to it, or you can't carry a lot of the team games on your own. I don't think it's intended to really be something that you try to hone your skills at and become amazing. Obviously you want to do better, and winning is fun, but the point is just to have a goofy, silly time. And I think I had way more fun with this game just passing the controller back and forth on the couch. So I think something like that would be awesome. And then just some little quality of life things too. The game's really new, and I think it's great so far, but there's tons they could add. I really like the idea of having more statistic sections between maps. Like maybe it told you like your win rate on a certain level after you played it or something.
That's exactly what I was thinking of, because I was playing. I got my second ever win the other day.
Congratulations!
And I was thinking like I was playing the game. It was that stupid one where there's one tail and you're all trying to grab the same at the end.
Tag.
Fuck that game. But I was thinking to myself like, okay, I actually won this game. Like I wonder how many times I've had to try it before I won. I would love to see like my win rate or my clear rate on each game and
something
stuff
like that would be fun. Another cool little thing I thought was like, you know, when you win, you get the crown. I thought it'd be cute, like your next match you go into, your guy's still wearing the crown, so you could see like.
That would be cool.
Like who's been doing well. Like I don't know, maybe that means like you start picking on that person or something, but like it would be kind of neat. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Whirligig Race is I think my favorite one. Like I like all the really spinny ones is what I found out making my list of favorite games. Like that's a spinny one. That's one with the spinny platforms. But I got a shout out to the Jump Club one where it does that like hole in the wall kind of style thing, and you have to like you just get caught up in the chaos and the pandemonium. And I think that's one of those games where like it really shows that like you can't take it seriously, because 80% of the time if you lose in that game it's because people in front of you fell over and then you just get pushed off the platform and there's nothing you can do. But it's just so silly and like dumb. So I like it. And I will shout out too, I think the currency system is really nice in this game. I like what they've done with like the microtransactions. Like obviously there's things you can buy for costumes and it's just purely cosmetic. But I really like how there's a currency system that you get just for playing. In every match you play, you get just like a base of coins, and once you level up, you unlock a new thing automatically. But then also you get like the crown. So winning a game actually gives you like a different currency, and you can spend those crowns on other cosmetic things, which I think can only be bought with them.
I think so, yeah. I think they're usually more of the rare items, and they take like anywhere from, you can get some stuff for 1 crown, or some things are worth like 5 crowns in general. So
yeah, but it like I don't know, there's something fun about like saving up for like this dumb like hat that I want to buy for my guy, but like I know I earned it instead of like I just played for 6 hours. So yeah, I like Fall Guys. I'm interested to see how they continue with it going forward, because I think it needs a lot of support in terms of like new games to keep it fresh and exciting, and then obviously also some more co-op options.
Definitely.
Co-options.
I mean, personally, like, cause I started playing it a few days before you did. I think I'm at the point now where like if I have a friend that's like, hey, we should play, like I'm happy to jump in, but it's no longer something I'm like actively trying to like engage in with, like to get friends to play with me kind of thing. And I think you know, new games would do a lot, but as of right now I'm kind of like, okay, it's the hexagon game again, okay, it's the race. Like I kind of know these games now, and it's not quite as
exactly like
silly.
I think they need to be careful to make sure it isn't just like a fun novelty for a week and then you stop playing. So I think new games are important to come out, like even if they just have like certain games on rotation. Another thing I thought would be kind of neat is if they had like some kind of like random element to the game, almost like if there were levels that could be built kind of roguelike. Like a race maybe would have like 6 different obstacles or like parts of a course in it, but they were not always the exact same in the exact same order.
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
like kind of like levels that were created like randomly might be kind of neat, just so that you can't like practice a level and know exactly like I jump here and I do this and I take exactly this path every single time, and like just to kind of keep the chaos and the pandemonium a little bit higher. But yeah, we'll see. I think the game has tons of potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially like getting it for free on PS Plus. What a fantastic, you know, that is for us, right?
Absolutely. This is one of the most fun I've had with a PS Plus game in a while, and I think that's something special. What else have I been playing? So I've been playing some Dead Cells recently as well, which is a game I've been playing like for weeks, but I just haven't had the opportunity to talk about yet. But now is the perfect time. It's actually getting a free update. I think it's actually just come out, so it is out now.
One thing about Dead Cells too, just to get it out there, I saw recently that if you're in the US right now and you have a Chromebook, it's actually free on Chromebooks in the US right now.
Oh my God, go get that.
Go jump on that. Yeah.
Go get that. It is a fantastic game. So it's a roguelike Metroidvania. So and it's sort of a weird for roguelike for me, because normally I associate those with like, oh, I'll do like a quick run and it takes like 20 minutes. A run in this game, if you make it to the end and you don't die and like if you actually explore all the levels and like try to get all the loot and stuff, it takes like an hour and a half sometimes.
For a run?
For a run,
Oh, wow.
yeah. It can be really long, but it's really nice. It's kind of like, I mean, it's called Dead Cells. The name is not trying to hide it, but people kind of like call it like the Dark Souls of these like new indie games out, and it's sort of emulating that. Like the combat is punishing. You can die very quickly, and it's got your sort of like, you know, it's got like a parry mechanic and some different like crit combo weapons, but it's really nice. Like the combat is very satisfying. There's a huge variety of weapons, from different kinds of like spells to like tons of martial weapons and bows, and just even some like weird things. You get like a frying pan, and like my personal favorite's the whip. So it's kind of like a Castlevania kind of thing, but each weapon has its own kind of conditions. So the whip, if you hit it exactly at the tip, then it crits. And there's other things that like the daggers crit if you're behind an enemy, or like something else crits on like if every third attack crits or something. So there's like kind of conditions, and they really change how you approach each level and each enemy.
Yeah. And
that variety is really nice. And there genuinely have only been maybe one or two things where I don't like the feel of it. So every run, it's different than the ones before, because you're trying out different weapons, and like I'm going for like this kind of build this time, and next time I'm going to do bows only and see how that runs.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I heard I forget what show it was on, but I heard someone talking about this on a different podcast, and I'm curious to see what you think, because they were saying that is there like turrets and stuff you can put down, or like
so you have two main weapons in your hand, which are like specific like main weapons, and then you have offhand stuff which can be various things like turrets or bombs or like a trap you can put down. So they're more like utility based things.
Yeah, because what they were saying was along the lines of like the game can become like very 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 easy if you just use the turrets and more of like the trap stuff, and you can kind of get past most stuff just using that kind of thing instead of actually like putting yourself in danger. I don't know if that's maybe changed.
There's definitely some of that, but it sort of was like a risk reward kind of thing, because what I found too is there's like ice weapons that freeze as part of a condition, and they just destroy most normal enemies because they're frozen and they can't get to you, and they're dead before they thaw. Right. But the problem with that is a lot of the bosses are immune to those kind of things, so you can spec into those sort of builds that really like kind of trivialize certain enemies who don't have a way of escaping it. But then you come up against the boss, and now all of a sudden your build's pretty shit because you spec'd into this kind of like CC, and the boss doesn't care about it. Right. So there is a little bit of that, and there's definitely some things that like feel a lot stronger than other builds, but at least like for me anyway, I find like I just like running different things just to see what they're like, and how they play.
Kind of the nature of those games. If you just did the same thing every time, it'd probably become stale.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the one kind of complaint I have with it as well. The weapon variety in your builds are very different that you can have per run. There aren't too many different types of like paths you can take. So between levels, you often get a choice of going one way or going a different way. And as you unlock kind of more of the like Metroidvania style like tools that let you like wall run, or they let you like make a little ladder out of certain environmental things that you couldn't interact with before, like they unlock different levels. But like oftentimes you go one path and you kind of go through the same levels every time. There isn't tons of variety in terms of like how you can choose to progress through the game and make it to the final boss. So I think having a little bit more variety in levels would be nice, especially since a lot of the levels have the same enemies in them with only one or two kind of unique things.
Right. So it's really like what kind of weapons you choose to play with that adds the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Like the levels are like quite samey a lot of the time. But that being said, as you get further through the game, you do unlock like different levels to play on that increase the difficulty. And then doing that, it does change the levels in some way. So I'm only on the third one, and I have noticed some differences. So I think as you progress further in terms of like making the game more difficult, it does change it more. But even so, I would like maybe to have it changed a bit more, just to give, like the whole point is like to do, one more run in these kind of games. But because the length is so long, it's hard to do a few different runs. So it kind of feels like you end up playing like, especially the first few levels, like over and over again. So I think something that would be good. They're definitely adding more. Like the free update that just came out adds a whole new level, as well as some new enemies, and it adds a whole new soundtrack too. So they're definitely like updating and putting new things in the game, and I think it's amazing value for what you get. Like the game is fun and it feels great, and that's the main thing. But I think there would be nice if there were a few more things to keep the longevity.
Yeah, it's nice they're still updating it too, because I think it's a couple of years old now at this point, right? Or is my timelines maybe off there? But it's at least like a year, maybe 2 years old now. So it's nice to see they're still like adding that kind of stuff to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a paid DLC as well that I don't have access to, or I haven't bought yet, just because I still have so much base game left to play. But it's really fun. I would really highly recommend it. It's also gorgeous. I really like the art style, and the music is fantastic. The story is pretty minimal. It's definitely not something that the game focuses on much, but there are little like lore secrets and things to find, and there's tons of cute references to other games. Like there's like one level where you're in a castle and there's paintings, and almost every painting is some character from another game. Like there's the Belmonts from Castlevania, and like Solaire is in there praising the sun at one point. And like it's really charming and cute. And it is hard. Like I think it's worth playing just for the challenge and like to see how far you can get with certain things. But yeah, definitely I would like to have a few more things just to keep engagement high and be like excited about like, ooh, what's that new X, and like who's that?
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Yeah, it's definitely one I'd like to check out at some point. It's just one of those, like we always talk about, like it's on the list, but it never gets to the top.
Yeah.
And, you know, if it was the kind of thing that ever came to like Epic Game Store or PS Plus or something, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm playing this right away. But it's, you know, it's one of those type of things.
All you need to do apparently is just buy a Chromebook.
And live in the States.
Yeah, and live in the States. So that's easy.
Cool. That's awesome.
And what have you been playing?
Well, I'll start off with my PS Plus game, as you did.
Right.
So you might remember a couple episodes ago, my PS Plus game was Call of Duty World War II or World War I, whichever one it was. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, no, this is not for me, you know, like not huge into that kind of thing. But
I mean, you don't even remember what the game was, so yeah.
Well, I knew it was a World War something, because there's Call of Duty World at War, there's World War I, World War II, like which one was it? I don't know. But here's the thing. For this PS Plus game, for August, I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered, which is, I played back in the day, like Call of Duty, when this game originally came out, it was like my final year of high school, whatever, like all your friends would come home, play Call of Duty, like it was the hot shit to do. And so this is a game I'm actually really familiar with. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised just how much fun I had going back to it. And the campaign it's like 4 or 5 hours. It's pretty short. So I actually beat the campaign. Like I enjoyed it enough to go through the whole thing over the weekend. And it was just a really nice nostalgia trip. And to be honest, like it was a really cool campaign, actually. I forgot kind of how many unique like set piece moments they did. I think Call of Duty, as much as we bash it, and like we're not maybe bash it, but like it's not, we're not those kind of gamers.
Yeah, and
right?
it also, the series does have a bit of a reputation for like, you know, like recycling. Yeah. Maybe there doesn't a need for one every single year kind of thing.
Yeah, right. And it's like most of that's multiplayer stuff as well. But like Call of Duty has some decent campaigns here and there, and this one's no exception. Like there was some cool missions I forgot about. Like there's one where you're climbing up like frozen ice walls, and then you're snowmobiling down a mountain, and like stealthing through this snowstorm kind of base. That
sounds
kind of thing.
Like a James Bond kind of.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kind of situation.
And you know, there's another one where you're kind of climbing this oil rig and killing guys from stealth, and then you're trying to escape these explosions at the end. And of course, there's the classic like sniper missions where you're trying not to get caught. It's super fun, and I just enjoyed playing through it all again, you know, and. It still has all those random tropes of like, oh, he's on your 6, or like stay frosty. Like if I hear another guy say stay frosty, like I'm gonna turn the game off, you know, like it's just they say it like every 5 seconds someone tells you to stay frosty and all this stuff, but it's just like that quintessential military.
It can't be as bad as Mass Effect. Did I ever tell you what happened with Garrus in my Mass Effect?
What, he's still calibrating?
So I played the first Mass Effect, and I must have had some kind of weird bug, but I always had Garrus. Garrus, I think is his name, right?
Mm-hmm,
like the one character everybody uses
Everyone
because
loves Garrus.
Yeah, he's the best, and like you want to romance him, sure. He's the only viable male option. So
unless you're into what's his face?
Rex.
Rex. Oh god. Okay.
Oh god, no. But anyway, I took him on some missions, and he like bugged out in one mission, and like he has a line where you come into combat and he goes, "There's enemies everywhere," but like he would spend literally the entire fight yelling, there's enemies everywhere, there's enemies everywhere. Like, I know, like, we've been fighting them for 10 minutes, Garrett. Like, what else? Like, and then he would die because I didn't have, like, a good front line, I guess, and he kind of would soak damage, and he just died all the time. And then he'd pop back up after reviving him. The fight's over. There's enemies everywhere. Like, no, Garrett.
You should have told him to stay frosty. Then he would have been able to know where the enemies were coming from.
He had some horrible PTSD, and I just kept forcing him into missions. It was awful.
Wow, that does sound awful. And maybe not quite as bad as that in this game. But, the only other point I really had about Call of Duty was that it's really interesting to play a game like this in today's, like, political climate with everything going on, just because of the, like, everyone knows the infamous mission, like, No Russian, which is basically where it's the optional mission you can actually skip, and oh really, it's optional? Yeah, they made it optional just because you basically go into an airport as a terrorist, and your mission is to shoot as many innocent people in the airport as possible.
Oh my god.
And
I didn't know Call of Duty got like that serious.
Yeah, I think at the time it was one of those, like, it wasn't really acceptable back then either, but especially like today coming out instead of like 2009, like this much later, it was just kind of weird to see that in a game. And I think if it was to come out like fresh today, it would have received a lot of flack for that.
Right.
Especially since it also has the tropes of like, oh look, like the characters from such and such country are the evil ones, and then the American guys are the good guys, and the British guys are the good guys. Like it's very much like tropey in that way, and it's weird to see like a game with that kind of stance coming out in 2020. But it is what it is, right? That's the game that they created, and they have like a big disclaimer at the front, like this is a fictional story, all that stuff. But I had a good time playing it. Didn't really enjoy No Russian, like I said, like gunning people down in the airport was kind of weird. Like I kind of wish I skipped that, but just Call of Duty. So there we go. Played that, and I also now we were doing the the best PlayStation exclusive ranking bracket last time, which is tons of fun. And one of the games we were talking about, like there was a bunch that like, oh, I'd really like to go and try that. Like, people say this is really good, but it's just on our list of games we haven't played. So I actually picked up Uncharted Lost Legacy after we did that.
Yes, I saw you were playing it last night.
Yeah, I finished it up last night actually, and I really was glad we delayed recording for one day so I could actually have the time to go and finish it. And I can easily see why people would say this is their favorite Uncharted game. It is, well, let's just get through the points here. We can knock off the list. It's a Naughty Dog game from the PS4. It's beautiful. The environments are just like knockout gorgeous, like waterfalls and jungles and ancient cities and all that stuff. Like it just looks amazing.
They always just nail the set pieces in that game.
It's absolutely nailed, yeah. And it's it's got a lot of the same mechanics as Uncharted 4 they brought in. Like you can drive the vehicle around and you can use the grappling hook, and there's the sliding mechanics, which are all fine. Like they're just, the new evolution of what Uncharted has become. But it's interesting that this game doesn't have Nathan Drake. It doesn't feature him at all. Like you play as Chloe, who is, I think she's was introduced in Uncharted 1 or 2. I can't remember which one.
I think it was 2, but I'm not 100% they've all kind of like blended into one seamless experience.
Yeah, so it was.
I think 2.
I think you're right, but either way, it was pretty cool to just have a different kind of protagonist, and she's a lot different than Nate. Like she's very much like the dry, she's sarcastic like Nate, but she's a lot more cynical. Yeah,
she's a little bit more of the like darker side to his kind of like, nothing hurts Nathan Drake. He's always like, he's got a quip every single time.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
And she's kind of like that to some extent too, but it was just cool to have her as like the main protagonist. And then you're playing your sidekick in this one is Nadine, who's actually one of the villains in Uncharted 4. And so it's kind of interesting to see her in a different light as like your ally in this game. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. The game is about half the length of what a traditional Uncharted was, and I think that's probably the aspect that I liked the most about this game, because one of my critiques about Uncharted in general is that sometimes I feel like they just drag on a little bit. Like you'll get to a segment in the story where you're like, oh, this must be like the end of it. Not that you want it to end, but sometimes things kind of outstay their welcome a little bit. Yeah. And I find that in some of the other Uncharted games that kind of happens, whereas this one's like a nice 7-8 hour kind of compact experience that doesn't feel drawn out as much. And I just think it was a really tight experience. Like there was some cool puzzles. It does the whole thing of like you do a puzzle, then there's some combat, then there's some puzzles, then you're platforming, then there's a driving sequence, kind of changes it up really nicely. And the puzzles were really neat. Like there was some where you're jumping across platforms in a certain order not to get killed, stuff like that. Like classic Uncharted kind of things. There are some puzzles though which are like these what do you call it? They're like rotating circles with different layers, and you have to spin them all in a certain way to get like an image to line up.
like matchup things.
Those puzzles are a complete bitch. Like they are so tough to figure out. I even tried watching a tutorial at one point, and it was the tutorial didn't help me, so I literally sat there like spinning this shit for like 20 minutes, and I finally figured it out. So that was like the one downside, but yeah, I mean, it's a good game. I actually put out a poll on Twitter right now because I was trying to figure out like, where does this sit among the Uncharted games? Because right now I'm going through my list and I'm kind of like, okay, well, I really liked 2. I think 2 had some of the... 2
is the one that comes up a lot, yeah.
It's always the one that comes up. I think 1's completely out of the conversation. Like, it's just dated.
It's dated. It's like the stepping stone that the other games needed, and like, I think if I was going to replay them all, I'd still probably play 1, but I would play it as a vehicle to get to the other games.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is I feel like Uncharted, more than anything, relies on good character interactions and looking beautiful as its 2 biggest, proponents of playing it.
Because the gunplay and like the gameplay, the puzzles are nice too. I like that aspect, but like the gunplay is like, it's serviceable, right? Like,
yeah, it's just...
if you want to play a shooter and you're specifically looking for like to scratch that itch, then like Uncharted is fine, it's serviceable, but it's not the most exciting or developed combat system.
Exactly.
So like, you are really playing it, more for like the overall experience.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, right? So I have the 3 that I'm arguing between is 2 because it's like some cool set pieces, like Nathan climbing that train at the start.
The train
at
the beginning, yeah.
Cool.
When I think of Uncharted, that's the scene I think of first.
Same with me. So like that one's cool. I don't think 3 is quite on the same level. And then we've got Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. And I think 4 is probably what I'm leaning towards as my favorite still, just because as much as I like Lost Legacy as a tighter experience, like I just love Nathan Drake as a character. I love how funny he is. I love Sully, who is another character that's absent in this game, and so I think overall that's my pick. But I mean, this game was great as well in terms of like the characters. Like Chloe and Nadine, they for the first couple hours, I was kind of like, oh, these guys don't really have a lot of chemistry. Like I know they're trying to build them up as having some animosity and whatnot, but it wasn't really hitting. But then by the end, I was like, this may be one of the most believable partnerships in the whole series.
Interesting. And I got asked too, because obviously Lost Legacy is still on my to playlist. But being Chloe, does it have any other like gameplay implication differences? No, it's purely
exactly
like,
the same.
She's a different character.
She's a Nathan Drake skin. They behave exactly the same way. I don't think there's actually any difference really, aside from just different personality, different character, that kind of thing. The only other thing I want to shout out in this is I really, really like, I think the other Uncharted games do this stuff as well, but just how robust the kind of bonuses are that you can unlock after you beat the game. So there's a lot of different collectibles you can find, and I think that collecting those and also looking at like these scenic, you can take like pictures on Chloe's cell phone, and if you see like a nice view, and just finding that stuff while you're playing the game gives you these kind of points to spend after you beat it on bonuses. So you can add like different graphics filters over the game after you beat it, or you can do infinite ammo mode, or you start with a certain gun, or a bunch of stuff like that, and it just adds more replayability afterwards.
Right, and you might not have wanted to do that in a full-length Uncharted, but in a really like shorter experience, maybe you would want to play through like with a certain
I think it was in the older games as well, but I was just kind of messing around with these after I beat it just for 20 minutes, and you can actually play the whole game in like an 8-bit graphics style, and the sound becomes 8-bit, or you can do like everything's like completely blue just with like lines, and it looks really weird. You can do like zero gravity mode, so guys are flying around, like when you jump you literally just like kind of go, or like if someone's body falls off of a cliff, they just kind of like float off, they don't actually move. Like it's just really neat, and I can see like having a lot of fun with that if you really enjoy the game, especially if you're trying to get the platinum trophy, or like you're going in for more than just completing the story. I think that would be, cool to mess around with for longer. But yeah, it's a cool game. I still undecided, like I said. I think at this point I still prefer Uncharted 4, but this is like right there with it on terms of like polish and enjoyable gameplay and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, would totally recommend it. But yeah, that's what I've been playing too. So I think we will end this portion of the show there, and we'll be back in just a minute to discuss the news. Hey everyone, we are back. Let's talk about the news, hey? We got a couple things to talk about today. The first being that, well, just as it goes, this is the state of podcasting, right? Like just after you record your episode, the day afterwards, there's a big announcement, big state of play. Obviously, we didn't get to cover that last time. So I know it's old news now, like it's a couple weeks ago, but we're just going to go over, our overall impressions for what we thought of the state of play back on August 6th. Overall, I think it was a pretty decent presentation. I mean, nothing super huge.
Yeah.
Maybe just a few of our highlights here. I thought Crash 4 looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just with all the different kind of modes you can put on, different looks. And of course, we have to mention Dingo Dial is playable. What the hell?
Right? I love how in the video too they've mentioned, they're like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Dingo Dial.
As if everyone's clamoring
like,
for Dingo Dial over years.
Right?
Listen, I played a lot of Crash Bash, and at no point was Dingo Dial the character that I was like, man, I can't wait to play with this guy.
I watched it, and I remember we were talking about it, I'm like, you know what, I Dingo don't care.
Yeah.
But you know what, the game does look great. Like, it actually made me really want to go back, because I picked up the Crash collection when it came out, and I played the first one, which is a game I had not played. I picked up specifically because I really liked Crash 3, and I thought like, oh, it's a great opportunity to play the first two ones as well. And it was just so hard. And like, I play a lot of challenging games. I'm not put off by challenge, but it just felt like there were times where you'd make the jump, but you wouldn't make the jump. And it wasn't fully responsive. And I know a lot of people have commented because of the way they change like the hitboxes and stuff. Is there a word for that when it's not combat
like collision
oriented?
detection?
Yeah, collision detection. That's right. Like they changed that a little bit, and there was some kind of wonky things from going like everything being squared and now rounded and whatever. But it made me really like, I don't know, I had like weird nostalgic feelings watching that, and it made me really want to go back and like, maybe I don't have to finish 1, but like I should play 3 again.
Yeah.
And like they're great games.
I think so too. I mean, I've never been a huge classic Crash person. Like I was definitely more of the Spyro fan as opposed to Crash. So I don't know if I'll really play Crash 4, but I really respect that they're bringing it back in like a classic format. And I'm sure people who are fans of Crash are like, can't wait to play this game.
Yeah, and I love how cheeky they are too. Like the tagline for it is like Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time. And like the whole trailer is like, yeah, guys, we're finally doing this. So
yeah,
it was really cute. I think it looks like they've had a lot of fun with it. And like to me, it's not a game I want to pick up maybe for full price because it's not as high on my list. But like when it goes on sale, I'll probably get it.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah. So anything else stand out for you during the presentation?
Yeah, I had kind of like a nice one pop up for me. So they announced Temtem coming to PlayStation 5, which is like a creature capture, like very heavily Pokemon inspired game. But they've made a lot of changes to make it a little bit more like, not necessarily competitive, but just a little bit less like simple. They've added a lot of different mechanics in the battle that like there's no longer like spam your best move, and like if you have the type advantage you win. There's a lot more like things to consider, and it's more of like a turn-based combat focus game versus like just fun get creatures and like kind of like steamroll the easy campaign. So and it's also an MMO as well, which is something everybody has always wanted from Pokemon. So I actually kickstarted this game and have had access to it in its like alpha and beta
on PC
stages on PC. Because it comes out on all the consoles, and I can choose what version I want to get the final game, but obviously the beta and stuff is just PC. So I've played it from time to time and really enjoyed it.
From tem to tem.
That's right. From tem to tem, and I've made my tem team, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So it was exciting for me to see like a game I've kind of been behind the scenes with a little bit actually get like a proper trailer for like a full release.
Yeah, totally. That was one I was going to bring up as well. Like I think we said on one of our earlier episodes, like what's a franchise? I think it was the first one we did, like with the quiz or the answer our game questions, whatever.
Quiz.
And I think I said on that show like I'd love to see Pokemon like as a series brought over to PlayStation because of how it could be expanded. And this might be like the closest we get to that, so I'm interested to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a game I think maybe I'll review a little bit more in depth on the podcast soon. Maybe if I go through a spurt of playing it a little bit more, maybe now that I'm on vacation.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, those are what stood out to me the most. Definitely those two games. I mean, obviously, Bug Snacks goes without mentioning that Bug Snacks
it's
exists.
New hotness, man. Totally. The other one I wanted to bring up just quickly was the Hitman 3 VR. Not in the sense that I really respect Hitman. It's not like my jam to play it, but I think it's really a really cool franchise, like super in depth. There's a lot you can do with it. And I just wanted to bring up, like, man, I'm not usually one to complain about things being like too graphic or like inappropriate. Like it's an art form, right? Like if you don't want to see that kind of thing, just don't play it. But this one to me is like, you're literally gonna like fucking assassinate people in VR. Like that seems like it might be a little bit too realistic, like walking up behind some guy with your VR headset and like the wire and like placing it around their neck with like and actually doing those motions with the Move controllers and whatever. I feel like that might be a little bit too real.
Yeah, it's almost like a psychological study kind of waiting to happen. Like get that game into universities and like see what
I wouldn't
it
be
does
surprised that gets banned in a lot of countries that are like have more strict regulations on kind of game what they can and can't contain type things.
I mean, I think it'll depend on like kind of how realistic they go for. Like Hitman always kind of goes for like sort of like kind of like a lighthearted kind of like, it's very goofy in a lot of ways
despite its subject matter.
Exactly. So like maybe if it really plays off of that more, but like if it's if it really is emulating like straight up murdering people, then
seems interesting. The only other one I wanted to get your opinion on before we move along here was Godfall, because it's one of the bigger kind of next gen titles coming out. What did you think of the way that looked?
So Godfall looks interesting to me. I'm definitely, it's one of those games I'm keeping an eye on, but it's very much like it depends how it feels to play. Like I think it seems really interesting, and I like the idea of it because it's like a very loot-based game, but it's like an action combat kind of game. And I think like oftentimes you get those like loot style games and like shooters or like dungeon, kind of like Diablo style dungeon crawlers, and at least as far as I've seen, I've not really seen any in the kind of like RPG like melee combat style. So that interests me because those loot things are always kind of a genre I sort of want to get into, but I just don't typically tend to like the gameplay as much. Like I'm not a huge shooter, and I'm not like as into the like MMO kind of like, or like dungeon sort of Diablo style like controls. So I'm kind of interested. I think it could be good, and it's got like, okay, there's parrying and like rolling and blocking, and like, okay, it's kind of ticking some boxes for me, and it looks really nice. I think it's like it's quite a pretty game. So
at least in the footage we've seen.
And it kind of gives me some God of War sort of vibes to it as well. So it's a game I'm keeping an eye on, but I don't know, I have this sort of like a hesitation towards it. I'm not really sure why.
That's how I feel about it. To me, it looks very much like the way your character kind of combos and does its moves, like unless you get a lot of unlocks that they're not showing to keep secret, it looks like you're doing just the same combo every time sort of deal. And I think that while it might look cool in a trailer, even sitting and watching how like, what is it, 2-3 minutes of gameplay, I was like, well, I've seen this combo a few times, and I just feel like unless there's a lot more to it that they're not showing yet, I feel like it wouldn't be the most like engaging combat system, to be honest. And so I'm kind of turned off by it at this point, but I mean, it remains to be seen, kind of, final reviews.
Exactly. Like I think it's a game that like when it comes out, I'm gonna look into it, probably watch some gameplay and see if my opinion changes. But I don't know. I have a very love-hate relationship with it right now. But I'm interested at the very least to see where the game progresses and where it goes, and like I want to like it. So I'm hoping it ends up being good.
Cross your fingers. I hope so too. I mean, I want all these games to be good.
Exactly.
Right?
I think that about every game except for Bugsnax.
Let the people have their Bugsnax.
Right. I don't know why I'm hating on Bugsnax so much. There's still that like 5% chance it's a horror game, and I'm really like crossing my fingers for that.
Oh, 100%.
So that was a state of play, which is good news. And we also got some really big news just recently as well on the 17th, and that is a new free update coming to Ghost of Tsushima.
Very unexpected, by the way. Not unexpected that there was an update, but unexpected in the sense that it's multiplayer.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a very like intimate single player focused experience in the main game, but they have a new online co-op mode is going to be coming sometime in the fall, and it sounds really, really incredibly cool. So there's a 2-player co-op mode where you kind of like go and fight they almost kind of sound like bosses or something. Like they're these big legends, and they're inspired by Japanese like folklore and whatnot, and it almost kind of sounds like, I don't know, at least to me, like they didn't really specify exactly what it's gonna look like, but it almost like I get the impression of like a big Dark Souls boss or like something like a really intense big fight that you guys have to like take on simultaneously.
Yeah.
And then there's also a 2 to 4 player mode that's going to kind of be like a wave style, like battle mode.
More like a horde mode type thing.
Yeah, kind of like a horde thing. And then there's going to be 4 different like types of characters you can play, which I'm assuming are going to be like kind of just different builds that Jin will have.
Yeah, because this doesn't have Jin or any of the main story characters in it, right? These are 4 separate
I don't
characters.
believe so. I think it's just like, your 4 characters, like you might not even be named, like there's just different classes. There's the samurai, hunter, ronin, and assassin. So I'm assuming those will be like, this one's very much like spec'd into the stealth tree. This one's very much like spec'd into the honor tree, and then like 2 in-betweens kind of thing. And like, one will have maybe like the tanky armor, and one will have like a little bit more like speed oriented. So I think they're just kind of like different ways you can build Jin, but they'll probably just be called like the hunter, and that's who you are.
Yeah, definitely. So as someone who's played Ghost of Tsushima, unlike me, is this the kind of DLC like you would be like looking for, or would you have preferred maybe more additional single player stuff to add on to like Jin's story?
I mean, it's hard. I think for me personally, I would rather single player stuff, just because that's what I tend to prefer to play. Personally, but I think that this is a fantastic addition to the game, and it's free. You can't complain. Like,
no,
I think it looks fantastic, and I honestly think the combat is one of the strengths of the game. So I think it will be a lot of fun, and I'll definitely try it and like queue up for some matches. So I think it's totally unexpected. I think it's great. I don't think it devalues the idea of like maybe there'll be another DLC for story content later. Like, they can do both.
100%. And I think it's smart on Sony's behalf to have this kind of mode put in the game, because these long like single player games, I think there's a lot of people who like beat these games and then trade them in or like swap it with a friend. Whereas this is very much like, hey, if you like Ghost of Tsushima, then not only do you want to keep your copy to play it, you, instead of lending it to your friend may then want to buy the game so that you can play multiplayer together. So it's actually like helping the game have a longer like sales life. Yeah,
exactly. And just gives you a little bit more longevity or reasons to go back. If, like you said, you've already beat it, or like, people who maybe platinum the game, like there's still more to do. So modes like that are always good in games, because it just adds so much like extra time that you can spend in a world where once you're done the story, you feel like there's nothing left for you to do and you have to give up on it.
Yeah.
So having something like this is great. So yeah, I'm excited. I will definitely play it in the fall, and we'll see how it goes.
Report back then. Hey, maybe I'll pick it up too. We could try it out. No guarantees there. We'll see. But hey, that's going to be the news for this week. So like we said earlier in the show, stick around, because after the break, we are going to be discussing the roster, our roster for PlayStation I can never say the name of this game. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
It's a horrible name. It's not a good game.
Also, it's not actually a Battle Royale now that that's a genre.
They need to rename this thing. Look, we're going to work out what characters would be in PlayStation Smash Bros, okay? Right after this. All right, guys, we are back for the third and final segment of today's show. And like we said, we're going to be discussing PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2's hypothetical character roster. So for anyone that doesn't know or is, wasn't following PlayStation back then, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale was basically Sony's take on like, hey, Smash Bros is really popular. Let's make a knockoff. And it's like so similar to Super Smash Bros, except for a couple weird rule changes that just didn't work, in my opinion, and I think your opinion too.
I agree. It was a game I thought had so much potential, and I really wanted to enjoy, and then playing it was like, oh, it was just a little bit of a letdown. But the concept is amazing, and it could come back in a really strong way.
I think even stronger, just because like comparing Sony now to then, like we've got so many more really cool and interesting characters that could be added onto and all that. But so first of all, before we get into our list, I'm just going to read off the roster of the initial game just to kind of refresh people on that and see, what we were at before, what we are going to add to the game now. So in the original game, there was 24 characters, and they were as follows. Big Daddy from BioShock, Cole McGrath from Infamous, Colonel Reddick from Killzone, Dante from Devil May Cry, Emmett Graves from Starhawk, Evil Cole McGrath from Infamous. Why they weren't listed back to back, I don't know.
Echo Fighters before it was a thing.
Yeah. Isaac Clarke from Dead Space, Jack and Daxter from their Jack and Daxter game, Kat and Dusty from Gravity Rush, Kratos from God of War, Nariko from Heavenly Sword, Nathan Drake from Uncharted, Parappa from Parappa the Rapper, Raiden from Metal Gear, or Raiden, I don't know, Ratchet and Clank, obviously from Ratchet and Clank, Sackboy from Little Big Planet, Sir Daniel Fortescue from Medieval, Sly Cooper from Sly Cooper, Spike from Ape Escape, Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal, Toro Ino from Doko Demo Issio, which, do you know what that is? I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that. It's probably something big in Japan.
Yeah, probably. And finally, Zeus from God of War. So that was the original roster. Pretty cool roster, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a few characters that maybe be a little dated at this time.
Did I say Fat Princess? I think I might have missed that one.
No, I think...
Fat Princess from Fat Princess and Heihachi Mishima from Tekken. I did miss those two.
Right.
So that is the full roster from the original game. And so we thought what we would do is, because there was 24 characters in the original, we would expand the roster a little bit, because you couldn't just leave it at the same number as before. So
no, exactly. You gotta hype it up a little bit.
Yeah. So we're going to expand the roster up to 28 characters, and we're going to do 20 characters that are exclusive to PlayStation on a console. So they could still be on PC, they could still be on like mobile or something else, but they can't be on Switch or Xbox. They have to be console exclusive to PlayStation for these 20 characters. And then for the last 8 characters, they're going to be the guest characters that can be from anywhere. And I think the way we're going to do it is we're just going to take turns, give our quick little pitch, 30-second pitch on characters, make the combined list together. And if either of us have a character on here that's like really shitty and unjustifiable, then we can challenge each other and maybe take them off.
Yeah, exactly. So we both prepared a full list of the 20 characters, but obviously that's not going to happen. So we'll both pitch in half of those and see with what kind of list we end up with.
That's right. Now, Kate, we have to determine who's going to go first, because this could really determine who gets one of their more niche. This is
a strong position to have first.
It is. So I challenge you. I think the best way to do this is rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
And we're going to see who wins on the count of 3.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, tie.
Rock, paper, scissors. Okay, I win. There we go. Paper, or that wasn't even paper. That was rock, break, and scissors. So I get to go first. And I'm going to start it off probably with one that's on both of our lists. Just get the easy ones out of the way first. So I'm going to nominate Kratos to return to PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Are you sure? Are you sure he's earned it?
Oh, man. You know what? I think it's quite clear that he is probably, I would argue, PlayStation's #1 mascot at this point.
Yep.
Headlining the game here. So start off with the main man, Kratos.
Okay. Now, I have a question for you, because I obviously had Kratos on my list, but I paired him up with his good old boy Atreus. And now, is this Kratos on his own, or is he getting some range support? You know what?
I would be down to add him if you want Kratos and Atreus. Like, it could be almost one of those things where Atreus isn't necessarily playable, but he stands on like a platform in the background, and you can use one of the buttons to shoot arrows, maybe.
Yeah,
like,
that's how I had him in. He was kind of like, like one of your special moves is like few arrows get shot in or something fun like that.
Okay, I'm down for that. Kratos and Atreus is the first character for this game.
Wonderful. Perfect. That crosses something off my list. I'm glad you said that. Now I'm going to go with the actual most important PlayStation character that you've missed out on, which is Astrobot.
Oh, yes. For those who listened to episode 10, we apparently are now the biggest Astrobot fans on the planet.
But you know what? He's getting some new games on PlayStation 5. He's the flagship PlayStation 5 game. And
that's true. So what kind of moves would he have, though?
I mean, he's got all sorts of moves, right? He has those little springy boots. Maybe he foot stalls you. He jumps on your head. I think he's got little, I've never played an Astrobot game, and this is now relevant. But he's got all sorts of little fun little, mini game powers, maybe, and, a little gun.
Okay, that's cool. I can accept that. Okay, let's move along here. I'm going to go knock another big one off here. I'm nominating my man Spider-Man. Spider-Man PS4, of course. Huge game. Yuri Lowenthal did a great job with the voice acting. He can return here for this as well. I think the web swinging could be an awesome recovery mechanic kind of move. You could web guys up to trap them. Spider-Man obviously has the hand-to-hand combat chops to battle these guys, so he's a clear-cut entrant in my opinion.
Absolutely. I'm more than happy for that. We can even echo fighter Miles Morales coming in.
Well, if you we'll see about it.
All right. I shouldn't get too hasty. We do have some more spots on the list. Okay, perfect. I'm going to hop into my next one, and I'm going to say that Jin from Ghost of Tsushima has to make an appearance. He is an adept swordsman. He has tons of different options. He can throw kunai, he's got a bow, he's got tons of different sword styles. He is just a phenomenal combatant, and there's no reason not to include him.
So now, let me just add on to that too. Do you think there could be like a stance change mechanic where he could become like stealthy in some way as like an assassin, or would you stick to just the sword?
I feel like the stealth is hard to incorporate in this style of game. So I think what I would prefer to have is he has like just the sword stances. So you could do that. Like you could have water style, which maybe changes his basic combos. And like his basic A combos, you have his water style, and then you could change like stone style, and it might change some of his buttons a little bit. I think that would be a neat way to implement those different varieties of his playstyle without having to like fully adapt stealth into a game that doesn't really accommodate it well. Haha, Ghost of Tsushima. What a meta commentary.
There you go. Nice. Okay, so that's the first 4 characters there. Kratos and Atreus, Astrobot, Spider-Man, Jin Sakai. Now, here's one thing we've missed, Kate. I'll tell you right now. I said Kratos is the PlayStation mascot. You say it's Astrobot. We're both wrong. I'm going to nominate Knack to come into this game. How can Knack not be included, right? As much of a meme as it is, it was a launch title for PS4. Everyone knows about Knack. And I really think he could actually be kind of neat. Like there could be mechanics where maybe he'd collect little stones from around the map or something, and he could build them up and actually physically get larger and like have more attack power but become slower, stuff like that. Why not, right? He's just an interesting character. You can't have all the big headliners. You gotta have some quirky guys.
Yeah, it's nice to throw in a couple like humanoid kind of characters too. Really like diversify the roster.
Yeah, that's actually one issue I think that this game would run into. Like PlayStation in general, I think they have a lot of like, it's a human, kind of characters with guns.
Yes, I noticed that a lot with my list that I was making. I was like, okay, this is sort of like, it's a guy and he either has some kind of sword or he has like a gun.
Yeah. Fair enough. So Knack.
Okay, I like that. I'm now going to tell you that we have a lot of kind of melee focused characters. So I think we need some range in here.
Agreed.
So I'm going to say that, and I'm hoping I pronounce this correct, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. She's obviously a big character. She's going to get one of the biggest PlayStation 5 releases. She's got a bow. You need your zoners. She's in.
Absolutely. That's a good one. So let's jump back here. You mentioned Miles Morales before as an Echo character. I would like to put Miles Morales in, but not even as an Echo.
You wanted to be his own guy.
Well, here's the thing, Kate. Miles Morales has a few differences from Spider-Man that aren't apparent to like on the surface level. Like he has some special powers that Spider-Man doesn't have, namely that he can actually camouflage himself and become invisible, which could be like, there was the invisibility item in Melee or Smash Bros, whatever. It's kind of neat. And then he also has like a Venom strike he can do, where if he's touching the same surface with his palm as someone else, he can like send some poison or something through it to poison that enemy. So I think you could incorporate that. And between those two things and maybe, changing up a few of his moves, he could actually be quite a bit different than Spider-Man. He also doesn't have as strong of the spider sense capability because he was bit by a different kind of spider. So maybe Peter Parker, like Spider-Man, would have maybe a counter move because he can predict someone's going to hit him, whereas Miles Morales might not have it. So I think there's actually a lot of differentiation there.
Right. Okay. I like that. I think making him his own character is even more interesting than being an Echo. The only upside to the Echo is now we have one more spot on the list.
Right. But that ain't fun.
But that's fine. If you want to use 2 of yours for Spider-Man characters,
I would.
I'm all for it.
I'm in that into the Marvel, Kate. You got to put him. So.
Deal. Well, he's in. Okay. I think I've got to get it out of the way and go for my very obvious needing to include on this list character. And I'm going for Eileen from the Bloodborne game.
Oh, Eileen.
I really do like having a hunter in the game, but you don't play as a specific character in that game, and I always really like having characters that are like named and have a face and are a little bit like this is specifically who they are versus like an avatar character. So I kind of fretted over who would go in. Like Gehrman obviously would be a great choice, and I even thought Alfred with his big dumb stupid wheel would be hilarious.
Yeah.
But I just think Eileen's so like slick and stylish with the Blades of Mercy, the 2 little tiny daggers she fights with, and she's a really like agile kind of character, so she would fit in that sort of like really fast play style. And like she's got the mask, the bird mask. She's just cool as hell.
Awesome. Yeah, you know what's funny? I had Hunter, like just the player character on my list, but I was unsure if I was going to put him in just because like it's not really like a character. It's like your avatar.
Yeah.
So I like your pick a lot more. And I just want to clarify too, with my Spider-Man pick, yes, I know Spider-Man is in like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 on the Switch, but I'm talking like Yuri Lowenthal, like PlayStation's Spider-Man.
Right,
which
yeah.
is, I think, a different kind of take on it, which makes him exclusive.
I think that's unique and fair to say.
Okay. So let's move along here. I'm going to throw another classic one out here. It's going to be Ratchet and Clank, another combo character. Look, Ratchet and Clank just have the complete insane arsenal of weapons. You got some melee, some range. You got Clank as the helicopter backpack, like the wrench. It's just perfect. He's a perfect character for this type of game. Ratchet and Clank is an easy pick to go in this game.
I think they have to be on this list. You can't get around it.
Well, I was also thinking like which characters show up in the new PlayStation Studios animation, like at the start of all those games, and they're in that. So like, how could you not have a character from that?
Exactly. And the new Ratchet and Clank is going to be a big flagship game for PS5. It's just the perfect time to include them.
Yeah. On the list here, Kate's written Ratchet and Click.
Yes,
so
Ratchet and Click. No, I really like that. I left it on purpose.
Okay, who's character number 10?
Character number 10, I think we're going for another character that kind of diversifies the roster a little bit more, like Ratchet and Click do, for not being humans.
Especially diversified with Click.
Yes. And we're going to go with Sackboy.
Nice. Okay.
I think he's a character from the first game, and you need to have some that follow over. All the Sackboy mains would really miss him if he wasn't there.
I heard there was a lot of Sackboy mains.
I think that I would like to be a Sackboy main. So he's got to be in there, and there's a new Little Big Planet gonna be coming out. It's perfect.
Sackboy's one of those ones, like, what the hell are his moves, you know?
Yeah,
like, what does he do?
But you know what I think too, like you kind of have to have some like weird, like almost like humorous characters that like, yeah, what the hell is Sackboy doing fighting Kratos? Like what could he possibly bring to the table? But you sort of have to have those joke silly characters, and I think 100%. He's a great one.
It's like Wii Fit Trainer in Smash Bros. Like, what the hell is she doing there?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is getting down to it now a little bit. We're halfway done the exclusive characters here. We're on number 11, and I'm already looking at my list like, okay, which of these am I maybe okay with not having in here?
Yes.
You know, I'm gonna take an interesting one here. Now, we kind of put a stipulation on this that I forgot to mention, where if a character is timed exclusive to PlayStation, that they still count as an exclusive for this list, because hypothetically this game would come out now and they'd be billed as like, oh, it's a PlayStation character, even though they might come out later to another system.
Right, yeah, we were a little fast and loose with the rules.
Yeah. So I'm gonna nominate Final Fantasy VII Remake, big game on PlayStation right now, coming to Xbox next year, but at this moment it's exclusive, and everyone thinks like, oh, Cloud, obviously, right? He's already in Smash Bros, so it ain't gonna be Cloud. It's gonna be everyone's next favorite, or possibly everyone's favorite character from this game, Tifa Lockhart.
Oh, okay.
She was also personally my favorite to use as a character in the remake, because she just had really fast like fist hand-to-hand combat.
Okay.
She can kind of power herself up with different moves, and she can put elemental effects on her punches. I think she would be really cool. And to be honest, there's just not enough female characters either. So I thought she'd be a good addition.
That's a good point.
Over Cloud.
You know what's really funny is I have on my list Sephiroth, because
kidding.
I thought he would be the Final Fantasy character to go in, because he's just so cool and like iconic, and he's got that theme. I don't know if I will waste. I mean, I would love to, but I don't know if I'll put a spot in for him if we've got the representation. But,
I think Tifa's a slam dunk, man. Everyone likes Tifa.
Yeah, but I'm glad we said get out of here, Cloud. You chose your side. You went to Smash Bros.
That's right. He already left, man. Come to the real fighting game, PS All-Stars Battle Royale 2.
Absolutely. Okay, well, good. We've got that down. My next pick then is sort of going to be a weird one, but I think just even to make the roster slightly more different, I would like to put in Trico and Boy. Not Atreus, but the other Boy, which is just the character in The Last Guardian that hangs out with Trico. He doesn't actually get a name, which is interesting. But I thought that they could kind of like be like a tag team sort of character. Like, you know, you have those like there's like Nunu is the one I'm thinking of. He's a League of Legends character with like a small kid who rides a Yeti, and there's like one in Mortal Kombat too. I can't think of their names, but it's like this big like hulking guy, and this little like kid rides him and like kind of dictates what he does. So they could be one of those characters. Like you kind of control Trico, but the boy's on his back, and like
that's actually really cool.
They have those sort of like tag team movesets.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but that's actually pretty unique, and it's kind of like a deeper cut game at this point too. Like, you know, one of those that people wouldn't necessarily all know if they don't follow PlayStation closely. So I like that pick, actually. That's cool. Okay, what am I going to go with here? Looking at my list again. I'm going to go with an interesting one, bit of a throwback character here. I'm going to go with Daxter. But just Daxter, no Jakk.
No Jakk.
And I think it's because we have a lot of, like, we have Ratchet and Clank, Trico and the Boy, like Kratos and Atreus. Like, I think it's interesting just to add Daxter. He's also, like, really tiny, so that would give some variety in terms of, like, the character's size. And he could do a bunch of things. He could be, like, maybe climb on other characters, like grapple them a little bit. Or I think he has other weapons he can use too. And he's just a character with a neat personality. Like, he's very, very, like, much like Rocket Raccoon kind of guy, you know?
Right, he's
so
a bit quippy. And
I think he could be, like, that kind of version of a character for this.
Okay, I like it.
And he's a legacy character too. They can't all be from new games. They got to have some older ones in there.
Absolutely. That's one of those games that can have some representation for sure. I'm going to go with a weird one, but it's just a game I feel really strongly towards, and I didn't realize it was an exclusive, but it turns out it does count, and it is the robed figure from Journey.
Oh.
And, like, it's kind of weird, and they don't have tons of, like, combat moves. But I just think that that's such a game that, like, has such a big emotional impact for a lot of people, and it spawned a genre almost where, like, a lot of games that come out now that are sort of like that artsy kind of, like, game where you
it's more like a experience.
Like levels and experience, and, like, they're called Journey-esque games now. Like, that's how you always describe them, and I think it's really neat that is kind of a bit of PlayStation history, that it's PlayStation legacy game. So, like, I don't know, I just really want the Journey guy to be in there. You can, like, sing, he's got that one move, and, like, he's just so beautiful and, like, would look really cool to have updated in a new game.
Totally. Okay, I like that one. Oh god. Okay, we have 3 characters left each for these PlayStation ones, and and
there's a few big boys that are not in this list yet.
Okay, you know what? Speaking of big boys, we got to put Nathan Drake. I'm gonna go with Nathan Drake. Obviously was in the first game as well. But come on, if it's not Kratos, it might be Nathan Drake as the next biggest kind of recognizable PlayStation icon. So you know, Nate's got to be there. We got to have his fun, sarcastic quips, and you know, he's a slam dunk lock.
Okay, good. I was really hoping you'd put him in there.
I was kind of hoping you would use a pick on him, but I
think that's how he made it to 15. We're like, well, maybe he'll pick Nathan Drake.
Yeah, at that point, I'm getting kind of worried. So he's in.
Okay, good. Well, I'm gonna go with one that unfortunately he already also ditched us and went to Smash, but I think we put Joker in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, or Hoker as you prefer to write down. But he's just, Persona 5 was such a big game for PlayStation, and it was a lot of people's first experience with Persona, and had there been a little bit more development into Persona 6 coming out, maybe that character would have made it instead, but I think you just gotta have smooth, stylish Joker make
definitely.
An appearance.
And he could maybe, like, summon some other characters to help him out, like, or the Personas at very least, if not his other, like, party members.
Yeah, exactly. Like they do, maybe Morgana kind of helping him out at some point too, and like.
You know what would be really cool is if the other characters didn't actually physically show up, but they had, like, the little speech bubbles pop in at the corner as he's attacking, like, oh, nice one, Joker, as he gets a kill. I think that would be so cool.
Or at the very least, if you just had Futaba up there, like, giving him some help.
Or saying, like, oh, that character, like, Nathan Drake's at high percentage or something, giving him a tip. I think that would be, like, such a neat touch.
That would be really cool. I like it a lot.
I'm glad we got those 2 off because they were both on my list. And, like, if I took Drake, you took Joker. We got
I figured I'd help you out a little bit.
Okay, I got 2 picks left here, and there's some tough ones coming up. I'm gonna nominate. I'm gonna go with Kenna from that new PS5 game coming out, Kenna Bridge of Spirits.
Interesting.
I don't think it's gonna be exclusive forever, but it is a timed exclusive on PlayStation at very least, I think. So the fact that you got to have some, you know, it'd be nice to have a character in the game that's from a game that's not actually even released if the game was to come out now, because it could kind of build that hype for, like, oh, this character's really cool in this game, so I want to play her game when it comes out.
Yeah.
And she looks like she's got some cool, like, combat. She's got the staff. I don't think we have a character with a staff in here.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess Aloy kind of does.
Nice.
But she's a cool character, and I think she could be a cool addition for this game.
That. As cool as these games are as, like, legacy games, they're also advertisements for their games. Like, how many of us played Fire Emblem because Roy and Marth were in there? They weren't even, like, English release games where we're like, oh, these guys are cool.
Yeah, so that's Kenna.
That's Kenna. Okay, shit, this is getting really difficult. I am gonna go with kind of a weird one, and it's a game I haven't played but you have, So I'm gonna go. I've written it down very messy, but I hope his name is Takayuki from Judgment.
Oh, Tak. Yeah, he's going by Tak.
He goes by
yeah,
Tak?
He's just
Okay.
Tak.
Yeah, I want him in the game because those games have like a really kind of like funny sort of like brawly kind of combat system.
The combat is so flashy.
And exactly. It's really flashy. And like while the Yakuza games aren't exclusive just to PlayStation, Judgment is. And so I think he would be like kind of a good mascot for that franchise in general.
That's a really good shout. You know, I'll spoil something. I actually have the Kiryu from the Yakuza series in my guest characters list. Because I thought he was like encompassing that whole franchise. But this is a really good pick as well, which I actually didn't think of for some reason. I don't know why. But okay. So now the question is, what is my last pick here? Okay, so I'm gonna make this really interesting. And I'll tell you first a couple that just really quick that I had on my list here, but they haven't made it.
Okay.
Akuma from Street Fighter, I think would be really neat because Street Fighter, like we said last time, PS5 exclusive. Who knew? I didn't know that until last episode, but I think he'd be cool. But
right, and pulling other fighting game characters is already kind of a neat thing to do, and having villains is always fun.
It's true, but you know what? It's too generic for this, so I'm not going to go with him, and I'm unfortunately going to leave off Deacon as well.
He's also on my list, but I did put him in my bottom 5 just because Days Gone was kind of like,
it was a little bit of a miss in terms of like PlayStation's not that it was a bad game, but it wasn't quite like as renowned as the other ones. And also like
he's a little generic. He's
just another guy with a gun type thing, so I'm not going to go with him either. And who I am going to go with here is, as much as I want to go with the Predator from Predator Hunting Grounds, because that would be fucking cool.
That would be cool.
We have yet to put anyone from The Last of Us on this list, so I got to put Ellie in. Okay. It's got to be Ellie. Too big of a game not to have representation.
I agree. I considered those characters as well, and I think like I want them to be there just for what they are to PlayStation, but at the same time, they're not the most exciting characters to put in terms of like a fighting game.
Yeah, I think Ellie has got some.
She's got some chops, especially after the last game.
And she's vicious too. Like it would be interesting to see how they put her in. She can use the shivs, or she could,
Right, she might actually be the scariest character on this list.
100%.
Okay, I'm gonna give the final spot. I don't know. This one might be selfish of me. I would really like to give it to Parappa the Rappa because I think that's absolutely hilarious.
He is.
And I'm kind of convincing myself that that's what I should in fact do. But I think I'm going to give it to William Adams, who's the player character from Neo.
Interesting pick.
Which is also a PlayStation exclusive. And I know he's another samurai and we got Jin in there, and he's also kind of like sword stance, sort of like kind of similar.
That's kind of what I thought. That's why I didn't put him on my list.
Yeah, but I just think it's such a neat game, and personally, selfishly, I love those kind of games. So I would just like another option for me to have him.
Do you think he's different enough from Jin?
I haven't actually played Neo yet, so I can't say. It's a game I bought a long time ago, and it's been sitting in my like entertainment stand and hasn't been picked up yet. So maybe I don't know. Maybe in the design process, it becomes kind of like an echo of Jin, which is sort of strange. But I think the game's a little bit more like fantasy.
Yeah, he's got some magic
than Ghost
going on,
is. So I think he could be his own, and they could just amp up the kind of like fantastical, like mythological side of that game a little bit more, whereas Ghost can be the bit more grounded samurai representation.
I think so. I think that's fair enough. Sure. All right, so I guess that's all the exclusive characters we have. Now, this is, I think, as interesting as those were to go through, a lot of them were kind of like, I mean, there's a few weird picks in there, but overall, it's very much like...
Some of them are ones you just can't get around, right?
Yeah, you can't not have Nathan Drake, right? But these ones are the guest characters. So the stipulations for this is basically, it could be a character from really any game. It can be third party, or I guess we could do like Nintendo and Xbox. I don't know what you've written down, but they really have to be like justifiable and like reasonable to put in the game kind of thing.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And if it's a really horrible pick, we'll veto it and maybe put someone else in instead.
That's right. So so I guess I get to go first. Again.
I think so, sure.
So I'm going to start us off here with Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. Came out early this year.
That's a cool one.
I think.
Sure.
having some Star Wars representation would be like just selfishly really good marketing because Star Wars is like so fucking popular. And also like a lightsaber, that's a cool weapon, using the Force, like that would be super cool in a fighting game. And he's a good enough character to make it in. So
sure, yeah.
So why not? He can have the little droid. I forget the droid's name now, but I mean that guy's cute. Everyone likes that guy. So let's put Cal Kestis as the first guest character.
Okay, sure. I'm in. I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. My pick, I'm going to say that we want 2B from Nier Automata in the game.
Oh, nice. Okay.
She's got a really cool fighting style that would be easily adapted. She's got, kind of like unique weapon, and she's got a very like iconic look. And then also, as I was looking into this a little bit more, Nier is actually the 24th highest selling game on the PlayStation Store. But if you don't count exclusives, it's the 8th highest.
Wow, really? Is that high?
Yes, which means a lot of people really enjoyed this game, and I think they'd be excited to have her in.
I know 2B was one of those ones getting tossed around for like Smash DLC as well.
She was getting tossed around, but I see her fitting in a lot more in PlayStation than in Smash. She kind of like fits the the style
tone.
a little bit more in the tone, and also she's another female character we can have added in, which, as you mentioned, we don't have tons of.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Look, I've got a really good one for my last nomination for the guest characters. So I think for this one, I'm going to play it a bit safer, and I'm going to maybe be a little bit boring, if anything, but I'm going to nominate Crash Bandicoot. Sure. And I think that as much as Crash no longer, like, except for the original trilogy, isn't necessarily like a PlayStation character at this point for like over a decade now, I think Crash is so tied to the PS1 that it would be a really cool throwback kind of character to add on as like a legacy edition. And also you can like the spin attacks and whatever, and he can maybe use the Aku Aku mask for like a block or something. Like, yeah, I think he could be good enough. And,
I think so. I think he's still very iconic, even if he's not extremely relevant. I mean, like, maybe Dingo Dow is more relevant at this point.
I should have said Dingo Dow. Damn it. What a waste. I mean, the other thing too is that we don't know all the mechanics or whatever from Crash 4 too, so there might be some cool stuff Crash gets in that game that maybe could be, items or stuff for him in this.
Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna go with my second one as my dumb pick because, like I mentioned before, every good game needs some dumb, humorous, stupid characters. So I think the Fall Guys should make an appearance. I think we're gonna ride this battle royale into like the new big. It's gonna be bigger than Fortnite. And the Fall Guys are in there.
What do they do?
Well, okay, see, here's the thing, is the one move that you have in the game aside from running around is a grab. So I think they'd be like the token, like, grappler of the game. They'd have tons of, like, throw-based moves and setups. And then I also thought for some of their moves, like, they could incorporate some of the obstacles from their minigames. Like, he could throw fruit at you.
Or, like, put down a spinner.
He could put down a spinner and, like, throw fruit and, like, just do kind of, like, dumb...
That's awesome,
things.
actually. Yeah.
So I think the Fall Guys would be tons and tons of fun, and they would have a great opportunity for like costumes and colors in game too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here, this is the one. This is like my favorite pick of the whole thing, Kate.
Okay.
Now you might remember, similar to Crash, this game was very, very popular back in the day on the PlayStation. It's been on a bunch of other consoles as well. But I would like to nominate Tony Hawk to come into PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2. And I think that
I'm vetoing
Tony Hawk would be kick-flipping on guys and 180ing and knocking guys out. I don't even know anymore. Like, dark side grab, whatever it is. He'll ride his skateboard around. He could unmount from his skateboard to, like, use it as a weapon.
Oh, my
Or he
goodness.
could ride the skateboard for more speed. He could kick-flip it. He could ollie back onto the stage if he falls off. It's perfect. Tony Hawk.
I want you to ollie off this show.
Yeah. But the other thing too is that the remakes are coming out very soon.
They are.
Very popular, ties in perfectly with the marketing. Like, Tony Hawk is a slam dunk for this game.
Well,
He can wear his helmet to reduce damage taken.
wow.
It's perfect.
What can't he do?
Well, you tell, like, that's my main character in this, Tony Hawk. And the thing is, I'm not even a really big Tony Hawk like game fan. I just like to play it up because you hate it for some reason.
I don't know. It's become a thing. Like, this has become my identity. I will let you have Tony Hawk, but just know there will come a day when your joy will turn to ash and you will pay for this.
Look, as much as you don't like Tony Hawk, I think the argument is too strong for him to be in there to take him out.
You're right. I'm not equipped to deal with this right now, but...
So tell me, what's the last character?
Wow, are we really at the last one?
This is the last
already?
one. Yeah, we're done.
Okay. Well, damn it. Okay, I'm gonna shout out two ones that I would really like to put in selfishly and would also be good. I'd love to put the Knight from Hollow Knight in because that game is fantastic. The sequel, Silk Song, is supposed to come out sometime soon, but I think it's probably getting delayed. But the game is gorgeous. The knight is such a fun character. He's little, so Sackboy wouldn't be lonely.
It'd be like Daxter and Astrobot.
But that's not going to be my pick. Sekiro also was something I considered because it was Game of the Year. Yeah. You know, like we have some FromSoft support with Bloodborne being exclusive, and also Elden Ring is eventually going to get announced. But then we have
Neo and Bloodborne represented. So.
He'd be fun with his like all his like ninja tools being a little bit different, but I'm not going to choose him. I'm going to go with kind of like a safe pick, which isn't the most exciting, but I think would fit in the game really nicely, and that would be Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think it's one of those characters that comes up in conversation for always getting added to these kind of games, and while he's been on tons of different consoles and like he has weird Nintendo exclusivity as well with some handheld games, his roots are on PlayStation. Yeah. With the first couple Kingdom Hearts games, and he's got the Keyblade, which is sort of like a neat weapon. He also has a bit of magic, and he just sort of like he fits in really nicely. And
100%.
Could round out the roster a little bit.
I'm glad we agree on our picks here. Would you like to recap the roster for everyone at home?
Yeah, absolutely, I would. So
just to say, PlayStation, if you're listening, whichever studio is going to be making this game, please use this list, and we can take the credit.
Absolutely. So in no particular order, but also this order, our main characters we have Kratos and Atreus coming in as a tag team duo. We have our big boy Astrobot, Spider-Man, Jin from Ghost of Tsushima. We have good old Knack Attack coming in at number 5. We've got Aloy from Horizon. Miles Morales coming in as his own unique character. We've got Eileen from Bloodborne. Ratchet and Clank. And Sackboy as some kind of legacy characters. We've got Tifa as our Final Fantasy hero. We've got Trico and Boy as our weird animal tag team. We've got Daxter and Journey guy.
Whatever that character's name is,
I don't know.
Who really knows?
Wikipedia describes him as robed figure.
Robed figure it is.
So robed figure
I can just imagine the announcer of this game now. Like characters like Nathan Drake, robed figure. Like, okay. That's
right. It adds a lot of mystery to the match. Who's really under that robe? We've got Nathan Drake, obviously, and Joker coming in as two really big, recognizable characters. We've got Kenna as the new upcoming Excitement Edition. There's Tack from Judgment, Ellie from The Last of Us, and finally William Adams from Neo. And then with our guest characters that we're bringing in to, add some drama and some spiciness to the roster, we've got Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order, 2B from Nier, Crash Bandicoot coming in as a wonderful legacy character. We've got the Fall Guys as everyone's favorite character to pretend to main and then really enjoy playing and actually end up maining them by accident. We've got Sora, and then the last spot is still open because nobody wants to play as Tony Hawk, and that's awful.
Oh my god. Okay, well, there we go. You know what? I just realized we only did 6 guest characters. We were supposed to do 8.
Wow.
So let's add them right into the end here.
All right. Okay. Surprise lightning bonus round.
Surprise lightning. Who is your last guest character? Okay, I'll even let you go first.
Wow. You know what? Then I will add Hollow Knight because I'm selfish and I would really like him to be in one of those games, and Smash won't put him in for some weird reason. So we can be the knight. He has tons of magic moves. He's got his little nail that he can throw down. And he's just really cute and I love him.
I like it. I'm going to go... as much as I would love to put Lara Croft in this game, I think she's just too much like Nathan Drake, and you can't have Nathan Drake and her, I don't think, because they're so similar. So my last one is going to be Rayman.
Oh, Rayman.
And I think he's another character that is like, gaming history type of character that didn't make it into Smash Bros. And so, like, why not put him in this game instead? He's just one of those, iconic characters that everyone's like, oh, it's Rayman, just like Crash or Mario or one of those kind of characters. Not quite to the same level, I don't think, but, I mean, Rayman has had some pretty well-reviewed games recently, maybe a bit under the radar, but, get some Ubisoft representation, and Rayman, why not?
Sure.
So we'll go with that. We'll add those 2 on the end, and look, we actually didn't mess our rules up. Good thing I realized that, hey?
Yes.
Well, hey, if you'd like to let us know who you'd like to be in this game for your PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale roster, then please let us know, because we would love to get some other opinions. I'm sure we've missed a lot of cool characters, right? Mm-hmm. So you can send those emails to circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com to get in touch. We're also on Twitter and now Instagram at CANDSpod, both the same name. You can follow us on there. We're posting a little bit about like when we're recording, when episodes come out, stuff like that. Just keep up with us on there. Kate, thanks as always for joining us on this podcast.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
We will be back in 2 weeks to talk about more PlayStation. We'll see you then. The intro and outro music for Circles and Squares was produced by friend of the show, Matthew Chan. Interlude music is from Scott Gratton of the Free Music Archive. Our channel art was created by @unreasonable on Twitter, and our brother Alex is the designer of the Circles and Squares logo. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show.